The doors to the Viridian tea house are open once more, but to hell. This is a special book review, so if you're not into horror literature, please check me out next time. I will have lighter literature, I promise you. I do want to give a special thanks to 7 Star Press for giving me the chance to review this book. And I also want to say as well, this is an honest review. I did not receive any compensation for this review. What book am I talking about? Days of Darkness, a Hellscape novel by Stephen Zimmer. This was by far one of the best books I have read this year, and actually in the past couple of years. When I reached out to Stephen saying, yes, I was interested in doing a review for this book, he said, oh, I really think you'll like it because you're into Clive Barker, which I am. I do love Clive Barker. This reminded me so much of Clive Barker and then some. So let me give a little information about the book and the author. And I do want to say also too, I am part of the Days of Darkness blog tour review. So it's going on from June 17th through June 24th. And I'm so happy to be a part of it. So let's get to the details. So about the author. Stephen Zimmer is an award-winning author, filmmaker, and broadcaster based out of Lexington, Kentucky. His titles as an author include the Rayden Valkyrie Tales, Sword and Sorcery, the Ragnar Stormbringer Tales, Sword and Sorcery, the Hongvi Shadow Walker Tales, Sword and Sorcery, the Faraway Saga, Young Adult Dystopian, the Rising Dawn Saga, cross-genre, the Fires in Eden series, epic fantasy, the Hellscapes short story collection, horror, the Chronicles of Ave short story collection, fantasy, and the Harvey and Solomon Tales, Steampunk, which I do have to say I did read the Harvey and Solomon Tales, and they are some of the best stories I've ever read in that genre. So Stephen's work in virtual work includes the feature film Shadow's Light, short films such as the Sirens and Swordbearer, and the Rayden Valkyrie Saga of a Lionheart TV pilot. Stephen also co-hosts the Star Chamber Show, a weekly live audio podcast on Podbean featuring creative talents from all around the world. Stephen is a proud Kentucky colonel who enjoys the realm of good music, martial arts, good bourbons, and spending time with family. So, hi Stephen, hi Holly, thank you so much. So, about Days of Darkness. If you are into horror literature, or if you're not, but you're very curious about this, quick little synopsis. So Ambrose awakens to find dense rolling layers of ash-gray clouds spanning to the far horizon, shrouding the city beneath a drab pall. He begins his day, thinking it no different than from any other. Though it is in the height of summer, an icy, anomalous chill sifts into the air later that day until it becomes colder than the depths of winter. Then the sun sets and darkness falls. The night does not end as there is no sunrise to follow. Bizarre and frightening apparitions begin appearing across the city and world shrouded in an inexplicable darkness. It is only the beginning of an unfurling, deepening nightmare, one that will take Ambrose on a terrifying journey of self-discovery and revelation. For Ambrose and everyone in the world around him, the days of darkness have only just begun. So that's pretty much the gist of the book. It is over 300 pages long, and I did not have a tangible copy. I read it online. I devoured it in 2 days, literally. I thought, okay, I'm just going to give myself enough time, and I'm just going to pace myself, and I'll probably get through it in like a week or so. 2 days. I flew through it in 2 days. And when I finished it, I read the last page several times, and I sat back and I digested the words. I don't know about you, but in my bibliophile ways, there's some books that I've read where I go, oh, okay, that was kind of cool, and then I forget about it. There's some books that kind of make me scratch my chin, and then I'm like, oh, wow, that was all right. And then there are some books where I finish and I sit down and I talk to myself for several minutes as I verbally vomit every emotion that I went through while reading the book. And Days of Darkness was one of those books. I literally remember sitting at our dining room table talking to myself for a good 15-20 minutes going, whoa, so this happened and that happened, and I feel like this, and was that really what I thought it was? And oh my God, what about this and that? Literally, I talked to myself for so long, and I could not stop telling my boyfriend how much I love the book. Like I said, I'm a big Clive Barker fan. This did not disappoint. It is in the same style of Clive Barker, if you're into him or if you know of his works. But Stephen Zimmer takes that genre and makes it his own. He really does. I actually wrote down some notes here, so bear with me. And I really thought that Days of Darkness had a steady pace. I loved it. It was almost rhythmic, just reading the book. And when I would take a break or would say, okay, I'm done for the day, I'll pick it up where I left. It was that same steady pace of the writing and the flow of the story. And yet, as there's a steady pace while reading it, your anxiety and your dread continue to rise. This might not be a good book for somebody who's triggered by horror literature, but even if you just like the thrill of it, you feel your dread rising, but you can't look away. You don't want to look away because you have to know, as the stranger says, what comes next. Always, what comes next? And I kept thinking, okay, what comes next? And then I answered it and went, oh, yeah, okay, that's right. Another question that I had was this. There's one part of the book that deals with a superconductor, and I thought, was this the cause of what we're experiencing right now? Never makes it clear. I did not want to assume. I did not want to say, oh, well, it's obvious because of this or that. But I have my own thoughts about the Days of Darkness, which I'll get to in just a moment. There was a scene that involved a party, and I won't go into it too much, but it reminded me very much of a very classic story by Edgar Allan Poe. And when I read it, I slowed down and I went, wait a minute, this reminds me of something else. And I didn't feel like Stephen had stolen it or just done something nefarious with it. No, not that at all. I felt like he was inspired to create this one scene that lingered in my mind for quite some time. Because when I kind of made my own connection, I went, ooh, you just took it to a very dark place. And the Edgar Allan Poe story was already dark to begin with, but then you just put like 3 extra layers of darkness to that one scene. I also wondered if the Days of Darkness descending upon the earth, was this really hell that decided to take over, when hell freezes over? Or is this the possibility of a yet darker beginning? That hell was sort of like the precursor, or this hellish nightmare is the precursor to something even more glorious and disturbing and just mind-blowing beyond all belief. I don't know. Another thing too, and I'm kind of laughing about this, was as I read the book, I kept, getting caught up because I'm so excited about this. I kept thinking about Ambrose, the main character, and he is an asshole. He is privileged, he's entitled, he feels like the world owes him. There is a distinct difference between the haves and the have-nots. And he is very much of the haves, and he makes no bones about it. Yet, he encounters these days of darkness. And as I was reading, I thought, I hope he's not going to turn into some anti-hero that inadvertently saves the day, even though, he grudgingly doesn't want to, but blah, blah, blah. I found that Ambrose stayed a continuous asshole through the entire book, and I was glad for that. I didn't want him to suddenly get a conscience and say, oh my gosh, I'm realizing things right now, and I feel that I need to change. It was none of that. And actually, yeah, I'll go ahead and just talk about it. So my bigger thought about this book, yes, it is horror, but my bigger thought was, is this philosophical? Is this a cautionary tale? Before I get into that, so today's tea that goes with this is, I've just got a lovely Earl Grey in my Medusa mug. I felt that this was appropriate for reviewing this book, so excuse me. Perfect combination of black tea with bergamot oil. You cannot go wrong with an Earl Grey. And many thanks to Bigelow for having one of the best Earl Greys ever. So I thought to myself, is this philosophical? Is this a cautionary tale? And this was part of the verbal vomit that I had after finishing the book. And I thought, well, what if? I'm just starting off with a what if. What if humanity just continues this downward spiral of being entitled, of being greedy, evil, selfish, petty, all the 7 deadly sins, all of them. And with humanity continuing, there's this spiral, there's this building of energy, this building of some kind of mass that inadvertently either causes a portal to open where hell comes to us, or we create this, humanity creates this itself. So hell didn't have to come through a portal. We created it through our 7 deadly sins. And there's one point in the book where it kind of sort of touches on that, where Ambrose realizes what's going on and the part he had to play with it. And that's why, to the bitter end, he is not remorseful. He doesn't suddenly wake up and go, I've got to be a force of good now. No, he understands he had a part to play in all of this. So that just really got me thinking. I thought, did humanity cause, in a way, with all of the stories, the biblical stories about hell and about the devil and the fallen angels and all this kind of stuff, what if all of those stories combined with all of our misdeeds just created it? Instead of, hell has always been there and it just needed enough energy to force a connection between our world and theirs. But I really think that humanity in this book created its own hell. And that just really got me thinking. I thought, now wait a minute. So if that's possible, and there's one part where children are missing, and there's a greater explanation for that, that also kind of made me think, maybe I'm right. I mean, I could be completely off the mark, but that's how I felt. I felt that with the way that humanity will, if humanity continues to spiral out of control, that we will create our own hell, and all those who were innocent will be dealt with. I'm not going to say how in the book, just read it. So anyway, those are just some of my thoughts. And also, I love the prophet. I loved that character and his words of, I had to write them down, the cold precedes, the darkness manifests, and then death takes dominion. And at first, when you first hear those words coming out of the prophet, you're like, okay, crazy guy, whatever, here's your tinfoil hat. But then as the story progresses and Ambrose keeps running into the prophet and also the stranger saying, what comes next? It's always what's next. You begin to realize they're not so crazy after all, because they see, or they have seen, what is slowly, well, not really slowly, but descending upon the earth. So this book was, it was an excellent version, an excellent example of horror literature. You got your gore, you got your feeling of hopelessness, you've got your, these creatures that Stephen does a great job in describing some of these creatures. Like, as soon as I would read a description, like, I imagined it flying around here in Denver. So great description, great plot, great pacing, and you have one hell of a story. So once again, Days of Darkness, a Hellscapes novel by Stephen Zimmer, does receive 5 pots of hellish Lapsang Shusong tea from Viridian Tea House. And I'm so honored that I had a chance to do a review of this book, because it really is an excellent read. I hate the fact that I've not read other works by Stephen, and I mean to change that, because if you're looking for someone who really has a good grip on language and telling a story and throwing you in the middle of a story and saying, okay, good luck with that, and then walking off, you need to check out Stephen Zimmer's work. I need to check out more of his work, and I will be reviewing more of his books right here on Viridian Tea House. So just many thanks to Stephen, many thanks to 7 Star Press, many thanks to Holly. Just thank you so, so much for giving me a chance to read this book. And there will be links on this video as to where you can purchase your own copy of the book, as well as other links for Stephen Zimmer and 7 Star Press. So until next time, take care of yourself. Really, take care of yourself and each other. Raise your tea mug high, and just remember that to drink tea is to enjoy life and to possibly avoid hell. I will see you next time very, very soon. Bye for now.